I'm Cassidy Quinn, and this is Mentally Together. Because whether you can see it on the surface or not, we are all just trying to keep ourselves mentally together. And no matter what our brains are experiencing, they're not alone, they're together. Let's talk about gratitude. I know, it sounds super cheesy, and that was always my first thought growing up when my parents would tell me to say what I'm thankful for. Sometimes we would do that at dinner time. We'd go around the table and say one thing that we are grateful for. Some days, it was really hard to think of something, which sounds so stupid in retrospect because I had and still have so many things to be grateful for, like a roof over my head, a loving family, the health of my family, so many things. But sometimes I took all of those things for granted, and sometimes I still do. The older I get, the more I learn, the more people I come into contact with, the more I realize I do have to be grateful for. And yeah, the pandemic really put that all into perspective. I think that's the case for a lot of us. Sometimes this gratitude practice can totally turn into a comparison game, where we think, well, okay, I thought I had it bad, but look at them, they have it so much worse. And for me, that's where the whole gratitude thing stops working. Because although I am appreciating what I have, it's really only based on that other person and making their life look worse. Which, number one, kind of seems mean to me, and also sometimes that can lead me to invalidate my own feelings. Like, oh, what do I have to be depressed about? I have everything I need in life. And while yes, that is true, I also have depression. And it is valid, even if on the surface I have, quote, nothing to be depressed about. The gratitude should not prevent me from asking for help or wanting to feel better. I can be both grateful and depressed. I can appreciate the good things in my life while also wanting something more. My feelings are real, and so are all the things I'm grateful for. And also, for me, if I want to be able to help other people, help take care of them, help them feel better, I have to take care of myself. If I'm drowning in a dark hole of depression, I cannot help someone else swim to shore. I have to get myself swimming first, and then I can reach out and grab that other person's hand. Wow, yeah, I told you, gratitude. It sounds cheesy, but I don't think you could say it's wrong. My guest today is really good at keeping a positive mindset and practicing gratitude. It's CJ McCollum. CJ is a professional basketball player. He's a guard on the Portland Trail Blazers, and he is so good. So training and playing obviously keep him pretty busy, but he's also a journalist, a winemaker, and the host of his own podcast, Pull Up with CJ McCollum. Unfortunately, CJ's had to battle some injuries throughout his career as a professional athlete. Recently, he was out for 8 weeks with a broken foot. I got to talk to him right before he got back on the court. In fact, literally while we were recording this episode, he saw that the Trailblazers had announced he was playing in the game the next day. But if you follow CJ on social media, you know that whenever he's injured, he's still sharing so much positivity. Even though I'm sure it is unbelievably frustrating not to be able to do what he loves to do and play basketball, he never makes it seem that way, saying it just makes him appreciate what he has even more. In fact, the whole not being able to do what he loves thing, the things he loves are really seemingly little things, like walking his dog, Fiona. Things that many of us take for granted. So I loved talking to CJ about how he gets through the tough times, the mental health struggles of professional athletes, and how he shows love and support to his teammates and friends. Oh, and back to that whole comparison thing I talked about a minute ago, here's a quote from Theodore Roosevelt that CJ mentions later in the podcast. Comparison is the thief of joy. So keep that one in the back of your brain while we get into it with, he's athletic, he's a great dog dad, he's a wine connoisseur, it's CJ McCollum.
I appreciate all of it.
Thank you for being here. So, okay, I don't know if this is an unfair question to ask someone that is a professional athlete that's currently recovering from an injury, but just to start out, like how are you doing in general? How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm much better now. I think having gone through injuries in the past, you kind of adapt and get used to the recovery process. You get used to the loneliness. You get used to some of the stress and anxiety, some of the stuff that comes along with the injuries. You kind of figure out how to cope with it and like what to do to kind of overcome it. The worst part is when you can't walk in the beginning, you can't stand up and use the bathroom. You can't stand up in the shower. Like you have to go through that process of realizing that a lot of things you took for granted. I couldn't walk my dog for 5 weeks. So a lot of
Oh.
things you take for granted come back to bite you. And then once I got cleared to like walk around in my boot without my scooter, I couldn't take her in the grass. You know what I mean? So like I would
Oh.
try to like take her, but then it's like rocks and I'm in my boot. So that was just a difficult time. But outside of that, I think it just gave me perspective. It always does on what's important in life, what really matters in life, how to deal with some of the other stuff that I was working on, wine, other ventures, investing. I was able to really focus on that. I was able to spend more time with my wife, more time with my dog. My wife's grandmother ended up passing away last week, so I was able
Oh.
to kind of
I'm
be
so
there for the family
sorry.
viewing. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think the injury allowed me to do a lot of things that I wouldn't have been able to do if I were healthy. So from that perspective, I have a greater appreciation for it. The timing wasn't great with how I was playing in the season, but I'm in a good spot mentally now. Like I'm good.
That's amazing. Yeah. It seems like from the outside, from someone that obviously watches you play basketball on the court, on TV, and then just sees you on social media, doesn't see, the day to day. It seems like you always have this amazing positive outlook this whole time while you're facing this tough period of being injured. How do you do that? And is it how it seems? Do you always have that positive mindset there?
I have bad days just like the rest of the world. I have days where I'm negative. I have days where I'm a pessimist, and I just try to be positive. I try to provide good energy. It's not the world's fault that I'm injured. It's not my mom's fault, my dad's fault, my grandma. It's not my wife's fault. It's not the people around me's fault that I got hurt. So I try not to take it out on them, and I don't want to shift the mood in the room in a bad way. So I've always tried to be like on the bright side. Like I live a good life. I'm still healthy. My family's healthy for the most part. The people that I care about, I'm able to take care of. So like you just have that perspective to where it's my job to perform, and I love to perform. I love to be able to play, but you have a duty and responsibility to still try to impact the world in a positive way. And I've always tried to do that, but I'm not perfect. I have terrible days just like the rest of the world, but my terrible days compared to what a lot of people have to go through, like I have that type of point of view to where I've come from, what I've had to overcome. It would have been a lot harder to deal with what I'm going through now under those circumstances. But financially, I'm secure. Mentally, I'm stable. I'm mature. I've been through a lot of the stuff that I'm going through now. And I have people that support me, people that empower me. I see the other side, like what that looks like. I've seen the other side of retirement from people that around me have retired. And I've kind of prepared my life in a way in which I can deal with, whatever comes with it. So I am for the most part positive, but I have my days where I don't want to work out, or I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do that. Woe is me. Like I go through it, but I think just from a spiritual standpoint, I pray, I read my Bible, I get my daily verses in, I have my daily stoic, I read different things to where I'm able to put good things into the atmosphere and just stay encouraged and understand that I'm just living a life. I don't have no control over what happens. I just control like what I do and how I react to it.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what are some of those things, whether you're going through a tough time and you're injured or you're getting ready to play a game tonight? What are some of the mental things, the habits that you do that help you get into a better space?
Yeah, I just try to give myself personal time. I think that's the thing that, I've told my wife that she has to find when you're balancing work, you're balancing family, you're balancing the rigors of stress, figuring out if it's 15 minutes, if it's an hour, if it's, I had a waterfall in the backyard. So I'm able to kind of sit
Ooh.
there and like watch the water flow. And it's just like therapeutic for me. Try to walk my dog every day. We generally eat dinner at 6 or 6:30 and we walk the dog after dinner together. So those are like moments where you can kind of collect yourself. You're at peace. You're with nature. You're not worried about work. You're not worried about stress. You're not worried about what time you got to get up or things that are happening in your life. You're kind of just present. We eat dinner at generally the same time every day. So that those are our times where we can kind of collect ourselves. I meditate. I see my movement specialist, my PT, just about every day to kind of like make sure I'm doing my physical stuff. I lift with Todd. I meet with our health and performance staff every day. And as I'm recovering, I sit down with Jess. We kind of talk about our plan. I sit down with John Yim, our head video coordinator, and kind of go over my workouts, my return to play, what that looks like, the film aspect of it. But when I disconnect, I disconnect. So like when I step away, I try to step completely away and have healthy hobbies, whether that's investing, whether that's real estate, whether that's tech calls, Bitcoin. So like I'm constantly busy, but it's the type of busy that I can put up with, the type of busy that I can still function on. And I still find time to like meditate a few times a day, listen to the Wall Street Journal, listen to certain podcasts, EYL, Earn Your Leisure, like the different things to where I can educate myself and it's not a rigorous activity. And I drink wine.
And wine, of course, your own wine, obviously.
Yes.
I love how you mentioned meditating. What does that look like for you? Because I know for some people, I like to use an app because my brain needs something to listen to focus on. Other people just go sit by their waterfall in the backyard and just listen to it. What does it look like to you?
It's all things. I use the Headspace app a lot. I have the Calm app. I do guided meditations. Sometimes it's just deep focused breathing. One of the things I've tried to do is work on controlling my heart rate, which is just good for yourself in general, but also good for my recovery when I'm playing. So I'm just kind of focused on those things. So generally when I'm in a great rhythm, it's morning, midday, and night. Lately, it's been sometimes in the morning, sometimes in the midday, sometimes not at all. So I'm just trying to find that balance. But like you said before, you just have to figure out what you're most comfortable with. For me, sometimes it's on my walk. I'm listening to a guided meditation, or I'm just really focused on my breathing, listening to the wind, listening, it may be raining, listening to the dogs step over the leaves. All of that stuff is just sounds that you don't pay attention to, but I'm just trying to be focused and present. And then other times I'm just getting 20, good breaths in, where it's, in and out, 10 seconds, whatever the case may be, full belly, deep breaths. So on and off. But now that I'm, healthy and I'm able to work out every day and stuff like that, it's just really important I don't lose sight of the things that I was doing to kind of stay mentally engaged.
Yeah. And obviously working out, you have to do it for your job. That is your job. But even if you weren't a professional basketball player, if you were but you were just a winemaker or an investor or all these other things that you have that are your hobbies, do you think would working out still be a big part of keeping yourself mentally positive and in a good space?
Yeah, I would always work out because it's great for your mental and physical health. I want to live a long life and be able to experience a lot of things and be able to see a lot of things, over the course of my life. So I'm a big hot yoga guy. I love Bikram and things of that nature, but I haven't been able to do it because, I broke my back in the bubble, so I couldn't do yoga. And then the season started, and with COVID protocols, we couldn't do it. And then I broke my foot. So I haven't been able to do yoga in a long time, but those are the types of things I would surely do. I would definitely box. I did some boxing in the summer, and during most of my rehabs when I fractured my foot, boxing is something we do. And I probably would swim, even though I'm not a great swimmer. It's a great cardio to swim. And if you have a dog, I suggest you walk your dog for lots of time, because that's just a great way to be outdoors and get some type of functional movement in outside.
I love that you said, you hear Fiona's paws step on leaves and it makes the crunch of the leaves. And I feel like that's what dogs are doing while they're on a walk. You got to get into the mental space of a dog. Dogs are oh, look at this plant. Oh, I need to smell that flower. Oh, I need to go run over to this yard. And if we just get our human brains to be that mindful like a dog, I mean, maybe they're not actually very mindful, but now that's what I'm thinking about.
Nah, I think dogs are extremely mindful. Doing a shoot, like I told you, I was doing a shoot with Shannon earlier, and she can hear cars before the cars pull up. She can sense things. When we're outside, she'll swipe at bugs in the dark. They're just very intuitive, and they can also tell when things aren't going well. When you're sad, they're very compassionate, very attentive animals, and that's why they're like man's best friend, woman's best friend, all of that stuff.
Now, you've mentioned your now wife. I almost said fiance because last time I interviewed you, it was that. But congratulations, by the way, a couple months ago. You mentioned your wife, your dog, your family. Now, for 2020 or the whole pandemic in general, obviously it took a toll on all of us in different ways. For a lot of us, it was because, we didn't go to work. We didn't go outside. We stayed at home. For you, at least for a few months of that, you did kind of the same, but you left your home, you left your family, you went into the bubble. Mm-hmm. What kind of mental space did that put you in?
That was rough. Just because of the timing of everything. You get the two extremes, right? You get the don't go anywhere, stay in the house. All you're doing is with your significant other, you're with your animal, whatever the case may be, for 100, 150, 100, whatever, 130 straight days. To the other extreme, you leave your animal, you leave your significant other, you're not able to see your family. you're not sure like how they're doing. You don't know because you're in a safe space where you're testing every day. Like everything is set up for you to be safe. And you're also isolated in terms of your circle. You have your teammates, you have those people around you, but it's the one situation in which makes things very difficult. We had to postpone our wedding. There was a lot that went into it that was just more stressful because she had to plan the wedding while I was gone without me.
Oh my
And
gosh.
we had just got a dog together, and she was like, working a full-time job at one point, and then had to kind of stop, take care of the dog, and then just, I'm not here. So there was it was rough, but I think it helped build, like you said, an appreciation. I took my candles, I took some books.
Oh, you took candles with you?
I generally travel with candles in general, just like for like my psyche, makes me feel at home, makes me feel comfortable. My wife actually makes candles. One of my cousins makes candles in Rhea, so I usually travel with her candles. They got some great scents. They're called a Ray of Light. But I travel.
Awesome.
So like my room always smells good. I brought one. I was in a good space because of my requirements. I require like the bare minimum a lot of times based on like how I was raised, what I've gone through. So like if I have good food, if I have a nice bed to sleep in, like my perspective is like, look, I don't have to worry about much right now because of where I'm at. So let me just focus on what I can focus on and just kind of build from there. And that's what I did. I spent a lot of time with my teammates. I spent a lot of time, learning about wine, conference calls for days. And it was just cool to bond with the teammates, but I definitely miss my family for sure.
Did it mean more time just like by yourself too? Because like most of us, like for me, I'm stuck in quarantine with my boyfriend. He's always around. So I have alone time, but really there's always someone else here. But if you're in, I imagine your own hotel room, right?
Yeah.
Or do you have like roommates when you're in the bubble?
No, we had our own rooms. Like I was fortunate. Like some guys had small rooms, situations, some hotels didn't have balconies. So like the first 2 days you couldn't leave. I had a balcony, I had a suite. So like I wasn't in a spot where I wasn't really complaining. The food was whatever. It could have been better at certain points, but it was free. Balance there. But I like being by myself in general. Like I love like my privacy. I love my space. I love my peace. So at first it was cool, but then like after a while, you're like, all right, like I'm ready to go back home, be with my family. Like this was nice while it lasted, but 90 days later, it's like, all right, it's been a long trek. But I think for most people, from a mental wellness, mental health standpoint, it affected them for sure.
Yeah. Were there things that you like learned about yourself just by spending so much time in your own brain with your candles?
Yeah, I mean, I just learned the importance of family. A lot of things have happened in the last, year and change to where time is all you really have. Money is whatever. It's good to be able to take care of things, be able to take care of people, but none of those things go with you. Having seen some people leave the earth, all you have is the memories that you shared with them. All you have is the stories, the way they made you feel, and it's over. So like that was just my perspective. It's just like, let's just really take advantage of your time when you have time to do things, be present and really enjoy it, and just understand that life is precious. And I think the quarantine has taught us that. COVID has taught us that. I think how we're having to maneuver and live now has taught us just how precious life and time is.
Yeah. And I know I always appreciate, it seems like every time I talk to you about something it's always not basketball related. It's always something different that you're doing, but it always comes from a place of you wanting to do good and wanting to help other people and change the world in your own lanes that you work in. And even, I mean, okay, pandemic's going on, you're in the bubble, you're separated from your family. And at the same time, the entire country of America is having an awakening of, oh, racism not only still exists, but it's everywhere and has been for hundreds of years, even though some of us pretend that it disappeared. And I know that you would, whether it was through videos or podcasts that you're doing or shows, or just wearing a t-shirt with Breonna Taylor on it while you're walking into the arena, how do you balance everything weighing on you in the world, but also trying to keep yourself mentally fit to be playing a game and just living as a Black man in the world, obviously?
Yeah, I think it just it comes down to how I was raised. You know, you have a responsibility. You know, my mom used to always tell me, remember what you came from and where you come from. And I understand the process that it took me to get to this point. I understand that there's a lot of kids who look up to me, who come from places like me, who come from situations like me in which they're disadvantaged, they're the underdog. They may not have two parents in their household. They may be getting raised by someone else. Like, there's a lot of things that kind of affect a kid's trajectory. And I want to make sure that the kids first and foremost understand that anything is possible. And if you work hard, you can make it. And I want to kind of reach out and uplift as many kids as possible. But then I also want to shed light on different injustices that we see in day-to-day society. And me as a privileged Black man, right? So I've gone from all spectrums. I've been a kid who grew up, you know, down the street from the hood, who was treated a certain way, to a kid who goes to Lehigh University, is one of the only Blacks there, 2-3% Black, to a kid who gets drafted from a school where a player has never gone pro before, to becoming a professional athlete and going back to the same school, the same neighborhoods that I grew up in, and seeing how my treatment has shifted. How I'm treated by law enforcement is different. How I'm treated and viewed in the public eye is different. And I also see my friends who come from the same places as me, cousins, family members who may not necessarily have the same notoriety as me, but are treated differently. And I understand that I have a job to spread accurate news, to spread accurate facts, and to just allow people to really see what's going on in this world. Because as you said before, it's unfair a lot of times. It's unjust a lot of times. There's certain crimes that are committed by, you know, a Black person versus a white person. And the time that they're given is different. The voter suppression. There's just so many different issues that we have that I just want to put light on in the world. And I feel like I have an obligation with a following, with people who look up to me, with people who believe what I say. I want to make sure first and foremost, I'm saying the right things. I'm saying the correct things, but I'm saying something that comes from the heart. And I think I've always been able to do that and been able to balance it throughout my career. It's something that I look forward to continuing to do. And coming from Canton, Ohio, seeing LeBron, you know, in Akron, what he's been able to do for our city, what he's been able to do for our community, what he's been able to do to kind of inspire people to not only elicit change, but to seek change. It's something that I admire and something that I hope to continue to carry for all of us.
Does that weigh on you though? Feeling like, I got to do all this because look where I got and look the way I'm treated now. So does that weigh on you as pressure to do all of that?
I mean, what do they say? Heavy bears the crown. Heavy is the crown who bears it, or something like that. There's a bunch of sayings like where much is given, much is required. It's a part of the service. You know, I get paid a lot of money. I worked extremely hard to get paid, you know, a lot of money to be in this position, to have this notoriety, to have this spotlight, to have this voice. To be able to create the CJ McCollum Dream Centers in partnership with the Boys and Girls Club, to be able to have CJ McCollum Press Pass, to putting out a wine. Like, I've been able to impact the community, my communities. I've been able to contribute during COVID. I've been able to purchase masks. I've been able to purchase meals for healthcare. And it's because I'm in a position to do so. So I always say, do what you can when you can. And I feel like I can help in a lot of different ways, not just spending money, but spending time, kids camps, being in the community, but also being a voice to where it is a lot at times. It does wear on you, but if you take care of yourself physically and mentally, I think it always comes back tenfold. And if I just change the trajectory of one kid, then I feel like I did my job. Like if one kid who was going to go left now goes right, then I feel like I did my job. If there's just a bunch of different people who maybe thought one way or now are given a chance to kind of listen to, you know, some other people's stories, I think I did my job.
I love that. That's just your perspective on everything is amazing. So thank you. If you need a reminder to go outside today, here it is. Sometimes that is exactly what my brain needs. Some fresh air, some vitamin D, and my favorite place to do that is in the mountains. I mean, I was never good at basketball, so I chose the mountains instead. And that is where True Gear comes in. True, T-R-E-W, outerwear is designed to make your experience in the backcountry more enjoyable. It's weatherproof and so well thought out, like the integrated avalanche transceiver pocket and the women's drop seat, keeping you comfortable for a long day outside. Plus, True believes that people who have positive experiences in the mountains are better stewards of the environment, happier people in their communities, and more motivated to make the world a better place. I've been wearing their Chariot bib for a few ski seasons now, and oh my goodness, it is life-changing. Yes, I know it is just an article of clothing, but guys, there is a zipper on the bum that allows you to go to the bathroom. Is that TMI? I'm just being honest, okay? I love these bibs. If you and your brain want to have a great time in the mountains, go get yourself some bibs or a jacket or all of the above. Use the code BackcountryBrains for $25 off any order over $100 and free shipping. Just go to truegear.com. That's TREWGEAR.com for $25 off with the code BackcountryBrains, all one word. And then have fun outside. Have you been putting off a visit to the doctor for way too long? Yeah, I do that too. And when I finally do call and make an appointment, the doctor's office usually tells me the next available appointment is months away. That's why I've started going to Zoom Care. With locations in Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and Colorado, Zoom Care offers same-day doctor visits that you can book online or from their app. Yep, you don't have to talk to anyone on the phone. They even offer mental health visits, where you can speak to a board-certified mental health provider in person or through video. Zoom Care is where I went last year for my ADHD diagnosis, and they made the process so simple. They really took away my stress. So if you're ready to make an appointment of your own, head to zoomcare.com. That's Zoomcare, ZOOMCARE.com.
Now, back to the show.
It seems like you provide a lot of perspective for your teammates, too. I was reading something the other day about how you a lot of times are the one that will tell your teammates, like Dame, maybe not to play every single minute of the game, that they need to take some rest. Where does that come from? And how do you do that?
I think it's being a little brother. I've paid attention. I've had to sit and watch a lot of different things. I was raised to, 2 ears, 1 mouth, all of that stuff. So I've been able to absorb a lot of information over the course of my career. And I'm just a very blunt person. Like, people always joke, like, Rick, our head of security, DV, a lot of people, Dame, they'll say, like, that's Kathy's son. Like, my mom is super blunt. She's super honest. She's genuine, but she's always herself, and she's unapologetically authentic. So if I feel strongly about something, I express it. And the same goes for Dame, the rest of my teammates, our staff. They know it comes from a good place. It doesn't always come out the way it's supposed to, but I mean well, and I'm here to just try to empower people and make everybody's lives better. And sometimes for Dame, he's competitive, he's fiery, he wants to win, to the point of where, he's just locked in on those things. And I have to tell him sometimes, like, look, bro, like, see the bigger picture. This is what we want to accomplish this season as a whole. Your body, first and foremost, is important. Mentally, we're going through a lot collectively. There's a lot of stuff happening around us. So if you get a chance to rest, you got to take it. If we're down 30, chances are we could come back, but what is that going to do to your body down the road when we fight this hard and we know we got a game tomorrow, and we know we got a game tomorrow that we got to win? So, like, that perspective for me has shifted because I got clarity on what I want to accomplish in this life. And I also have had this game taken away from me multiple times, to where you get a completely different picture of what's important, what's not important, what matters, what really doesn't matter, and then how you want to spend your time.
Yeah. Do you make sure that you take those breaks for yourself then, whether it's during a game or saying, I need a day off from doing everything?
I try to. I'm not perfect, but I try to disconnect. And I think, these last 8 weeks, I've been able to disconnect for the most part. I've been focused on business. I've been focused on a lot of other aspects of my life. I've been focused on my relationship, focused on being present. But as I continue to get ready to dive back into the realm of basketball in general, I think that it's always important that we have perspective, don't take things for granted, and you always try to give yourself time. I don't know how much time it is, but we all need that personal time to just kind of recharge.
Absolutely. Do you and your teammates, or I guess how much do you and your teammates, as, like, you guys, we all put athletes, especially male athletes, I think, on this pedestal of, like, you're strong, you're talented, you're athletic, you don't need breaks, you don't have mental breakdowns. Like, we're just going to watch you play, right? And obviously that is not the case. We've seen multiple NBA players write articles that talks about their depression and anxiety. But then even on, like, the small scale, things surprise us that really shouldn't. Like, I remember last season when Nurk's grandma passed away and the TV cameras caught you at the end of the game, I think, like, you giving Nurk a hug, and everyone watching, it was like our hearts were collectively melted. And yes, it was a sweet moment, but it also seemed kind of shocking of like, wow, look at these two men hugging each other and saying that they love each other. And that is something, you guys should always be there to support each other.
Yeah.
But do you guys talk about your feelings? Do you share emotions and stresses and anxieties?
At times we do, but I think athletes are the ones who kind of hold everything in. Like you said, like you never really know what we're going through unless we talk about it. Like for Dame, he's dealt with a lot. I think Jason Quick wrote an article about 6 close people, family members and friends passing away in the last year and a half. My aunt died last year and I played a game the next day. So like, I know what it's like to be hurting and not want to talk about it because you just don't want to talk about it, but also you don't want people to feel sorry for you, but you need to figure out like how to express it. So like, I kind of knew where Nurk was at. Like my grandma is still here, luckily, but I lost my grandfather when I was 13. So I know that type of pain that I felt, and I had only been running for 13 years. So like, imagine you get to 20, 25 years, you have that relationship, you're away playing a game and you can't be there to support your family. So I just kind of like, I knew what he was going through, not to the extent of like how he felt, but I know how it felt for me when I couldn't be there and I wanted to be there. So I just let him know that, I'm here for you if you need anything and got nothing but love for you, because there's so much more to life than sports. And sometimes people just get caught up in the sport. They only see the sport. They only see what we do from a performance standpoint, but they don't understand all the things that can deter us and affect our performance every day, literally. So I think we suppress a lot of it. And that's why there's so much depression across the league. There's so much anxiety. Guys are battling a lot of different demons that no one knows about.
Yeah. And then at the same time, while you're on this pedestal of playing on the court, then now something that didn't exist for athletes 20 years ago, you have social media, which you seem to be very good at social media. You're all over it. I can't imagine someone going and commenting on one of your posts saying something mean, but I've heard you talk about people leaving mean comments. Right. And have you gotten to a place where they kind of just, you brush them off, or does it affect you?
Yeah, it's like, what do they say? I forget the saying. It's like those who mind matter and those who
matter don't mind.
Those who matter.
Something like that.
Yes, something like that. I've just gotten into this. I'm in this space now at like almost 30, been through a lot, seen a lot. Like, you can't make everybody happy. So you have to make yourself happy. And you need to make the people that you care about around you happy. And those are the feelings that matter to me. Those are the opinions that matter to me. The rest of it is just white noise. I care a lot more about how my wife views me, how my mom, my dad, my family, how they view me, than how someone who's never met me before and only watches me on TV views me. So like, my perspective has changed. Some people get blocked. Some people I comment back, or I laugh, or I just like scroll through it, or I delete it. Like, I'm just a positive person, and I believe in putting positivity into the realm. And I don't like to introduce or entertain negative vibes in general. It's put negative things in the air, negative things happen. So I try to put positive things in the air and try to be as positive as possible. And I don't let those distractions deter me. I don't let those things bring me down. But it comes and goes. It's a part of life. It's a part of society. But my vision is clear. My vision, my understanding of my purpose is bigger than what one man or woman thinks about me, especially if it's not the man or woman that I love or care about, then it just really doesn't matter. And from a faith-based standpoint, I understand, like, I don't owe anybody anything besides God. Like, I don't owe anybody an explanation for things I do, how I do them, who I do them with. Like, I have a purpose, and I'm trying to fulfill and live my purpose while educating people and helping people and using my platform. But in between that, like, everything else is white noise. The praise is white noise, and the ridicule is just white noise, because I'm me regardless. I'm going to live my life regardless, and I'm going to try to be as happy as possible regardless. Hearing
you say that sounds like you have a really good sense of confidence in yourself. Is that true? And has it always been there?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a firm believer in myself. I believe in me more than anybody. My mom's probably the only person that believes in me more than me. And she kind of like spoke this life into existence from the beginning, from a work ethic based standpoint to a success based standpoint to you can accomplish whatever you want, but you got to work for it. And I've really seen it. I've seen the fruits of my labor, and I've also worked hard and failed. So like, I'm comfortable in all different types of environments, but I know that understanding that I'm just walking. I'm just here like walking and living life, right? I wake up, I pray, I do what I got to do. I start my day, I work hard. I try to do my due diligence on certain things. I try to educate myself on certain things, and whatever happens in between. So now I used to worry a lot. I used to stress myself out about stuff I couldn't control. Now I just control the controllables, and the rest is just what it is. Like I can score 100 points or 0, and I'm going to go home with my dog and my wife and my family like nothing happened. I'm going to sit down and eat. Chef Joy's going to make a meal, and we're going to chill out. And I'm going to not let work run my life. I'm going to let my life run work.
That's impressive. I'm sure there's a lot of other players that are still working to get to that point.
It takes time. It takes a lot of time. That's for sure.
Do you get calls from other players like, CJ, I need some advice? You seem like you should be the advice. Not that you have any time to answer advice phone calls, but if there was anyone in the NBA to answer advice phone calls, it could be you.
Younger players reach out for certain advice, more like life-based stuff, financial advice, how to deal with things. But I don't have it all figured out. I'm just comfortable in the space that I maneuver in, and I've mastered my space. I can't tell how everybody what to do with their life, their space, their problems is different than mine. But I figured out how to maneuver around like my circle, my realm.
Yeah. If you're loving this episode of Mentally Together, you might be curious. What goes on behind the scenes? Which parts of the conversation were left on the cutting room floor? Well, let's talk about it over on Patreon. My patrons get to see deleted video clips from every episode and get to be the first to ask questions of each podcast guest. Like from this episode. Clearly, I really enjoyed talking to Angel about skiing and anxiety and my experiences with both. So I had to tell her about a specific personal moment my anxiety kicked in the mountains recently. So if you want to hear that and hear her extra piece of advice for me, it's on Patreon. Oh, and as one of my patrons, you get every episode of the show a day early on Sundays. You can read all about the different tiers and sign up at patreon.com/Cassidy Quinn. Again, that's Patreon, patreon.com/Cassidy Quinn. Okay, now we have a few questions from our friends on the internet, which they're all nice to you, I promise.
Perfect.
No mean comments. Well, the first couple are from our friends on Patreon, so their questions get to come first. Corvallis Foodie, that's their name, says, what is the most important lesson you've learned about mental health?
I think mental health is the most important aspect of how you feel, regardless of how successful you are, regardless of how unsuccessful you are. If you think highly of yourself, if you view yourself a certain way, if you give yourself that certain time to be at peace mentally, then I think you'll be in a great space. And I think that it's undervalued a lot of times because it's something that you can't physically see. Like you can't see if someone has mental health issues. It's not like written on their face. They kind of suppress it, they hold it in. But being able to tap into that, being able to acknowledge whether or not you do have issues and being able to kind of act on them accordingly, whether that's rest, whether that's therapy, whether that's meditation, whether that's just healthy, happy hobbies, whether that's eating certain foods that make you happy. Like those are the things that I think are undervalued, underappreciated. And I have a greater appreciation of it because I've had nothing and been super happy, and I've had everything and been miserable. So I understand the balance.
Yeah. Jeff says, what don't normal fans understand about players in regards to mental health?
A lot of players are battling a lot of different things, and you can't tell, you may not ever know. And they look strong. They look like, everything's going well and everything's happy, but they're deep down, they're struggling big time. Sometimes it's with addiction, sometimes it's with depression, sometimes it's with the loss of family members, sometimes it's just life in general. And there's a lot of people who are battling a lot of the same demons and issues that people who don't play professional sports are battling.
Going off of that a little bit, Brianna said, I'm very curious to hear what support is provided to professional athletes through their organizations, like sports psychologists or anybody else.
Yeah, each team has a sports psychologist or a therapist, but I think players are more prone to use their own people. I'm currently looking for a therapist for myself.
Me too. It's hard.
Yeah, it is. And you have to trust people. And now you're in like the Zoom era. So like having to figure out like how to coordinate all of that. But I've gotten some pretty good recommendations from friends and people across the league. So hopefully I can move on that in the next couple of weeks. But we have a lot of things at our disposal, but I think the empowerment comes when like Chris Paul, Kevin Love, DeMar DeRozan, players come out saying that, hey, I have a therapist, or I battle depression, or I battle anxiety, or I have issues. And I think more players are like, well, yeah, I got issues too. I just wasn't going to say anything. And now they're more prone to speak up on it. They're more prone to go get help, more prone to go see people. So like when I talk to like K Love, I'm like, yo, I need a therapist. Like, who do you recommend? These are conversations that weren't being had 5 years ago. Or I ask CP, like, yo, I'm about to get married. I need to do marriage counseling. Like I've gone through marriage counseling, which is like something that they don't teach you. They don't teach you like you need to do this and you do this. It's like, no, I don't know what I'm getting into, but I want to make sure I try to do it, as right as possible. So like I've gone through this. And like now, like when someone's about to get married, I tell them, like, yo, this is what I did. I recommend you doing these things because these helped me. I don't know what your situation is like, but you should definitely look into X, Y, Z. And the same thing goes for mental health. It's like, check yourself. And if you're going through some stuff, like, if you're suppressing, if you're hiding it. So just kind of check yourself and figure out what you need and go get it.
Now, last question. You mentioned that whether you score 100 points or 0 points in a game, you still go home to your wife, your dog, have a nice night. But Omik wants to know, is there a post-game ritual that you do if you have a bad game?
And no, usually this is the quarantine year. So my wife usually has a glass of wine waiting for me. She can't go to the game. Dinner's waiting, dog's waiting. And then, I come home and eat and then floss, brush my teeth and go to sleep. On the road, it's different. You got to get back on the plane. You got to fly. But typically I'll have a drink with a friend or a teammate on the plane, or pre-COVID on the plane. I don't even know if we can eat and drink on the plane. There's all these rules now. But no, I speak to my brother post-game, my mom, my dad, my wife. Before I ice bath after every game, win or lose. I'll soak my feet after every game. And then I drive home. I
love that you threw flossing in there. Just, you don't even know, but you're speaking to my subconscious that doesn't want to floss.
You gotta floss. It's really important.
Like CJ said it. Okay, last but not least, we have a quick round of questions.
I got you.
Okay, when was the last time you cried?
Last week, at the private viewing of my grandma-in-law.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for sharing that.
No, it's okay.
What about the last time you had a big belly laugh? Something just cracked you up.
I mean, I try to laugh every day. Probably with some of my homies, with Coach Vanderpool, Dane, Rick Riley, pregame or postgame Minnesota.
Ooh, yeah. Where's your favorite place to shoot hoops? Like, got all the courts, and even doesn't have to be an NBA arena. Could be just a neighborhood hoop, whatever.
I just like shooting at home with my family. So like in Canton, J. Babe Stern Center, or Wash University, Glen Oak High School, some of those areas that would like remind me of my childhood. Those are where I enjoy working out.
That's great. What are you grateful for right now?
Health, my family, the ability to decipher things on my own and make decisions on my own. And I mean, I'm thankful for everything. The life I live, being able to sit here and have a conversation with you on the computer in the home that I've been for.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for everything. I should probably write out a list of things I'm thankful for, because I could do it forever.
What sound can calm you down or bring you joy?
Joy, I think it's just hearing people you love's voices. My wife's voice, my mom calls, hearing my grandma excited on the phone, like those things make me happy. When the dog's wagging the tail.
I was gonna say, does Fiona's voice count, or is that one not bringing you joy?
Like she's, or she's like barking. Different. Or if it's like a yawn or whatever, then that's better. But those things, and then just calm me down. Like I'm usually pretty calm. So
you seem very calm. What about a smell that calms you down or brings you joy? Maybe it's one of the candles. Candles, food, wine, getting the note. Wine smells really good. I don't know if I've told you this, but I'm allergic to wine. It's really sad. So I can't drink it, but I love the smell of it.
Sorry.
What is the best thing you do for your mental health?
I think breathing is first and foremost. You gotta breathe. Deep breathing. You gotta kind of control, relax. Maybe it's in through the nose, out through the mouth, big full belly breaths, 10 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever you can do. I think going on walks, being what they say, being one with nature is really important, especially here in Oregon when you get those nice days. just being able to be outside just does something to you from a serenity and calming and peace standpoint. And then I think doing things that make you happy. If it's popcorn, like for me, French fries make me happy. So figuring out what it is that makes you happy and then indulging in it every now and then. And I think realizing that your life is good for what it is, and like I always say, comparisons is a thief of joy. So like not comparing yourself to other people is really, really good for your mental health, because now today's society tells you need to look like this, do like this, dress like this, walk like this, talk like this. This is the life. Everybody puts on their best life on social media, and we compare ourselves to it as opposed to just living our best life, being thankful for what we have and making the best of that. So I would say those things are invaluable to your mental health.
Yeah. What about the worst things? Is there a habit that you need to stop doing for your mental health?
Too much social media.
Ooh, yeah, me too. What is your favorite thing about your brain?
I have decent control over it now. It's wild. It could go everywhere. Like I could be in a game thinking about French fries. You know what I mean? Like I think the ability to concentrate is like I could turn it on at the drop of a hat, but I also can lose focus like instantaneously. So I think that's like I guess it's a great part of the brain, because you're able to like get away from things that don't matter, or like get over things quickly, like failure, things of that nature.
French fries. And
yeah, I love French fries, and it's pretty sharp. I gotta keep sharpening it, but it's pretty sharp.
When do you feel most yourself?
When I'm at home, I mean, I feel like most of myself all the time, but probably on the basketball court, and I'm pretty comfortable everywhere, but honestly, the basketball court is home all times.
Good. You found your right place.
Yeah.
If you had to write a biography right now, what would it be called?
I don't know. I don't have an answer for you because I haven't thought about that.
Or you're probably secretly writing a biography and you just don't want to spoil it.
I should be.
You should. You should. What's something you're really good at that people might not know?
Just a really good dog dad.
Yes. Or Princess Pia.
I don't know. I'm not really good at a lot of other things. Like I can make certain foods. I could fry chicken. I can do steak on the grill. I can cook burgers.
French fries. And the last one is the most random. If you had to get something tattooed on your forehead, like I know you said that mental health, it's not like our mental health issues are just on us, but they could be if in the future everyone just has to get a forehead tattoo. That's like your message to the world or yourself in the mirror. What would your forehead tattoo say? Like
a message that I would want for everyone to see?
Yeah.
Probably Jesus loves you or something like that, just so that people understand that you're loved and life is precious and great. But like it's too long for me to like write all of that stuff. So something along the lines of beyond blessed, like you're blessed, like regardless of your circumstances. Like someone's praying for the problems that you have.
Oh, yeah, that's beautiful. And then, of course, people, I'm sure, are already following you all over the internet and all over the court. But where can people follow you and anything exciting that you have coming up besides getting back on the court tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to returning to the court. I have some wine that'll be coming out in the near future. I don't know when the announcements will come for a lot of this stuff. Outside of that, just watch our games and enjoy life.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
No problem at all. You have a great one.
And thank you, wonderful human, for listening to this episode of Mentally Together. We put out new episodes every Monday, so I, Cassidy Quinn, will see you next week. In the meantime, go do something nice for your brain today. Go meditate, walk your dog, shoot some hoops, whatever will make your day just a little bit better. Because remember, we are all just trying to keep ourselves mentally together. Mentally Together is produced, hosted, and edited by Cassidy Quinn in collaboration with Koba FM, a podcast network that is all about community, baby.